I want to thank both of you so much for taking the time to talk to me for horrornews.net today and
Absolutely.
introduce yourselves.
Yeah, you betcha. Well, I'm Michael.
And I'm Josie.
And we are the showrunners of the audio drama called The Call of the Void. It's a sort of science fiction, cosmic horror mystery podcast that we created about a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's since done very well. It's sort of blossomed in a wonderful, incredible way, a tribute to the audio drama community. We're over 150,000 downloads across like 70 different countries. And we're just very, very grateful for how it's what's evolved into.
Yeah, we started just thinking that it was going to be a one season thing. After we finished the season, however, we kind of went, well, I think there's more room for another story here, so we decided to make it to go for another season with it.
Yeah. So what we do to service the podcast, we're the writers on it, we're the producers, we do the social media, and Josie does all the graphic design. We like to wear many hats as we sort of bring this together because we just love art and we love to sort of have our hand in.
And we also play the leads.
We do, yeah, as well. But we're so geeked about horror. We love your community, especially. Yeah. You guys just have a really cool, warm community over there. So that's us.
Now, you mentioned that season 2 is coming out. What can you tell us about season 2 so far?
Absolutely. Well, yeah, season 2 is coming out tomorrow on the 11th of March. And what can we say? We can say that we wanted to take the characters in different places than we did in season 1. We wanted it to be, we don't want to repeat anything too much and, sort of like tell the same story over and over. So we just wanted to see where else we could take these characters, where are new and exciting environments that we could have them.
Yeah, and season one was very much action plot, like kind of forward moving momentum, and we loved that. We wanted to keep that in season 2, but we also wanted to spend a little bit more time getting to know these characters. Yeah. So we do that a lot in right. season 2 as well. We kind of get to emotional places in season 2 that we didn't quite have time for in season 1 because we didn't know the characters as well.
Because for context, the show is a little bit more like television for your ears than it is like a podcast. It's not a talk show or anything like that. It's really more like I don't know, like a TV show, but it's all audio inside your head.
Now, I did get to listen to a little bit of it, and it's really creepy. And I love that it sort of has this real psychological, intense feeling that you're not sure at all what's going to happen. How did this idea kind of manifest for the two of you?
Oh, really good question. I think, well, we like characters that are just like a little bit different. And I think that all of our characters are, you're totally right, that they have a little bit of a weird something to them. Even when you meet a side character, you're like, what's going on with that person? They just seem a little strange. And I think part of that's just we're like interested in those kind of voices and those kind of characters.
Yeah, and I think the concept arose from, so we were inspired by Lovecraft, like H.P. Lovecraft stories, but we wanted to kind of differentiate ourselves a little bit. We kind of came up with this concept of the call of the void, the what's the French word, l'appel du vide, and that's kind of that feeling where you're at the edge of the cliff and you're not thinking of jumping, but there's just that little voice inside your head that goes, well, you could though, like what would happen if you jumped? And so the entire concept of our show is sort of that like inner voice that's a little bit creepy and that kind of freaks you out yourself. And we kind of embody that in sort of a sci-fi / supernatural way.
What is sort of the process of making a show like this, since it is kind of more audio? Like, is it more challenging, or is the creative process kind of the same, or how does it work for the two of you?
Yeah, well, we've done a lot with each other. We've done a lot of theater and film work. And so this was sort of our first time jumping into the audio medium. And what we actually found was cool about it, we'll talk about like the easy thing first, was that with film, a show like ours, we could not do ourselves. It would be multi-million-dollar budget. Right. But we're able to do that because we're able to have these huge, big concepts in it because it is just sound design rather than visual effects and all that. So that's kind of the plus side to audio. You want to talk about?
Sure. The challenge is, right, it is just audio. So sometimes you think something will work visually. You're like, oh, then they'll see something and it'll be creepy. And then you write it and you record it, and then the audience can't see it, and they go, oh, that doesn't work at all. Like nobody could see it. And sometimes we do find ourselves thinking like, shoot, that would have been great for film, but just not for audio, because we really wanted to like embrace the medium of audio itself. Because sometimes, I mean, people will make a show that is, they kind of just take a play and then bring it over to audio, and it does all right. But we wanted to make like a truly audio experience. So even how the characters move in a scene, or how the dialogue is framed, it's sort of, it's built for audio specifically. But I guess as far as the process goes, we work together a lot. It's many hours. We first outline the whole thing, and that takes a good long time. We talk about every scene and exactly where we want to go, because we try to be as precise as possible. So we try to make sure every scene is establishing multiple things, and we're trying to make creepy moments like build into those, and we're trying to make it just really flow. And so then we start, after the outline, we move into writing, and we script everything. So we write scripts for every single episode.
Yeah, so that was important to us when for season 1, everything was written and recorded and for the most part edited before we even released episode 1, because we wanted to make sure that it all made sense and was congruent, and that we weren't like changing things and avoiding as many plot holes as possible. so yeah, all of it was kind of done before the release of episode 1 up until the end of season 1.
Yeah. And then once it's been written, then we bring in our actors. We like to record in-house, which is very challenging this year because of COVID, right?
COVID.
But we followed all the regulations, and we brought them in one at a time, and and then we had people read, and then we spend many hours at the mixing table just adjusting, should this line be here? Should it be faster? Or should there be a pause? How can we add sound effects to make it more immersive and really bring the audience in as much as we can?
I have to ask a little bit about, with doing this via audio and having a little bit of music and composition, and probably because I've spoken to a few amazing composers in the last few days, and this made me think of that. For example, if you're watching Jaws, the music alone is terrifying.
Yes.
Something horrible's coming, or Psycho, but that made me think of this, and I found that really fascinating, because you're listening to this and you're not quite sure how horrible or not as horrible, and I'm rambling, but I have a point. What did you kind of know that the audio would be as powerful as it is?
I think probably a little surprised by that.
I think we were hoping for it.
Yeah. We were like, here's hoping it's going to be powerful. You dream of the ideas in your head, right? You're like, oh, that's going to be horrific, or that's scary to me. And I hope it can come alive. And with enough hours, it usually does. Now, there are exceptions. Certainly, there's scenes that we like write them, and then we're just like, we thought that was scary, and it was very lame, and it just doesn't quite land.
Yeah, and I would say for this new season, for season 2, we kind of had more of an idea of what it would sound like, but for season 1, it was our first audio or large scale audio thing that we designed together. So we were sort of not even sure, like, what is the style of this? We were kind of inventing what our style was going to be for the show. Was it going to be as fully immersive as it was?
But I think the trick, you bring up a really good point there. I think the trick is to find songs that you think are really powerful, right? Yeah. You can't just have, any sort of like spooky music. You have to be very precise about what the right mood for that moment is. And even the not spooky stuff, the music of Call the Void it's set in New Orleans, and New Orleans is a very specific type of jazz that like lives in that world. They don't have like smooth New York jazz or like lobby. They have specifically street jazz, and we wanted our world to feel as authentic in that way as we could. Yeah.
Now, why did you pick New Orleans to have the show sort of based as? Because I love New Orleans, and I actually had a teacher years ago that she went to New Orleans, and she told me like everything that she saw and all these different places she went to, and the graveyards, and it's fascinating.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly it. We actually went to New Orleans we just went on a little trip about a year ago, right, kind of before we came up with this, and we were kind of coming up with just kind of in the birth of coming up with an idea to do an audio drama, and we went to New Orleans and loved it. It was just such a spirit of music and jazz and just fun and mystery and to the scene there in New Orleans. And so we just kind of thought like it'd be really fun to set a story here. I feel like there's so much.
There's something so eerie about the city, right? In a beautiful way. I mean, there's all these masks because of like the carnival sort of aesthetic, and then because of the French Quarter, it looks like vampires are just like around the corner, right? It just looks so gothic and beautiful. And there's just something about, I don't know, there's even like like little torches outside the houses. They're kind of old timey and spooky. And
we talked to some of the locals, Uber drivers and people in shops and stuff. And we were inspired by a lot of them. In fact, we kind of wrote a lot of people that we met sort of into the show a little bit. Some things that people say are kind of from very loosely inspired by people that we met in New Orleans, or even a character like one of the main characters, Topher. We like met a guy like that, and we're just like, let's write him into the show.
There's something so weird about New Orleans people. They're very okay with doom, because I think hurricanes come in like every year, right? And they're devastating, but the locals are just so like, they're just like, hey man, like,
we could die today.
We could die today. You don't know. And there's that weird spirit of like, hey, we're still making music and we're still just doing our thing. And we thought that was pretty cool. That was pretty wild.
Now, what was it like for you guys kind of working with your cast? How did that process go? Because from what I've seen and listened to so far, you guys do an amazing job.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Well, we're from like a kind of a theater scene in Michigan. So a lot of the actors that we worked with,
actually all of them,
were like kind of part of our theater community. So we kind of auditioned some people. Some people we just kind of had them in mind, like, oh, this person would be great for this character. So we kind of precast them. But for the most part, we worked with them either 2 at a time or 1 at a time, depending on what scenes were involved. And you kind of go through a little bit of directing of like what the characters going through at that time, what their motivation is, what they want in this scene, what they're looking for, why now for this character, what are they struggling with, depending on what the character is, and then we do a couple takes with them, and then just the rest is kind of editing and stuff. But
I think it does help that we do record in-house. Some podcasts they will hire actors and have them record in their own home
remotely,
studios, which is cool, and that works for some people. But I think Josie's the director behind this, so it's just awesome that she can really just get them to that place that we need them to. And
we wanted to make sure they all felt like they're part of the same world. Some voice actors are more broad, and that's great, but they're kind of more of a cartoony kind of blah blah blah. And then some are more, we wanted to go for more of a natural, just more like television kind of thing, rather than a very broad comedic voice acting kind of
more
style.
like a cartoon sort of voice.
So wanted to go more naturalistic.
I love theater, and I don't think I've actually gotten to ask anybody this, because normally when I ask, it's usually, theater actor who is an actor, and you're actually directing, Josie. So do you think doing theater helped you with, your role and with directing?
Oh, definitely. Yes, definitely. So both Michael and I met at Eastern Michigan University studying the theater department, and I kind of fell in love with acting. I directed Michael in a couple of scenes that we did, and I just, there's something so rewarding about kind of working with an actor and getting them to a certain place and talking about what their character, the depth of their character, and then seeing that as they're performing it is, it's such a rewarding experience to kind of see that and
get them to that
and
place.
help them get to that place. And it's very collaborative, it's like you're telling the story together, and then when the moment comes for the performance of a theater, yes, the director is just kind of sitting back watching, but they get to take the limelight, as it were. But it is, you feel so like proud of this story that you sort of helped create. and it's a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
Now-
Yeah, but I guess, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I totally agree. I think that like, but theater is totally helpful in how we frame scenes and how we think about scenes. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all I'm saying.
Do you kind of think that it helps you, like, with acting in general, like for films and with this and for you
Yeah,
at all?
definitely. Yeah, I think of it as being like when it's kind of a third eye, right? So like as actors, you're here in the story and you're doing your thing, but as a director, you're kind of looking at it from an outside perspective. So when you get that experience as well, you kind of take that into when you're acting, you take that and kind of go like consider like, okay, what does it look like from this perspective, and like you kind of see it as being more of the whole picture, I guess, rather than just you and your own character head.
Yeah. And I think that knowing both sides, because knowing like acting, knowing directing, you know what to help an actor with,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Because sometimes, directors can like give, very weird artsy ideas, and an actor can kind of just go like, I don't know what that even means. Like, what? You want me to do what?
Yeah.
It's like too cerebral, right?
Yeah.
But knowing that like, oh, an actor just needs that motivation in this scene, or they just need.
So yeah, acting helps directing, and directing helps acting, I would say.
Yeah.
Now, if season 2 goes well, is there going to be a season 3?
That's a great question.
Can we say?
We are interested in the idea of season 3.
We're interested in the idea of season 3.
Wow, we can't comment any further on that at this exact moment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's something that is a possibility, I will say.
And a very exciting possibility that we would love to.
Good to hear, at least that you're, considering it. Now, for the two of you, are you working on any other projects? Are you going to do anything else with this? Like,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think that because it's sort of a television for your ears kind of format, I think that this show does lend itself to other mediums, and sort of our like couple of year goals or like in the future plans, we would love to see this more realized in like in more of like a narrative scripted television format, or just to see it like in a larger, bigger place. Absolutely. We would love to explore some of those things. Because once again, we do work in film together as well. And we've worked on some other projects together as well. Even like this last weekend, we shot a short film together.
Yeah.
It was like another little sci-fi horror sort of short that we shot. So we love that medium too, and we really are excited about the idea of moving this story forward into like another place. Yeah.
when is the short film going to be out, or can't you talk about that yet?
That's a great question.
Yeah, we're in the editing process right now, and then we're gonna try to look for.
There's a couple distributors that are actually I'm interested in the short currently. So
no release date yet, but
in the next
within the next year.
Within next year easily, probably the next 6 months is where we're gonna see that pop out. Yeah.
Cool. Now, the two of you wear many hats doing this.
Yes.
Did you face any challenges? Were there challenges that kind of came at you, or anything crazy that happened, or?
Yeah, man. Well, I'm going to give Josie a compliment first. And I think, but then, we'll definitely talk about a challenge. I think one of the hardest things is finding somebody that you can really collaborate with, and make those moments work. I think it's very easy to have different opinions, on things. And one person comes in with the room with one idea and the other one comes in with another idea. But I think Josie and I have a really good language and way to communicate that makes us on the same page about handling some of those situations. I think one of the ways we did that was we sort of each have a couple characters, or even a character that we really identify with, and we kind of keep that character in check, right? So Topher's kind of my dude, and I'm always like kind of making sure, like, is this something that Topher would do? Is this like what he would think and how he would feel? And then Josie's the exact same with the character of Etsy and many others, but she knows where those characters would go and how they would feel. And that's super, super helpful. So having somebody that you can do that collaboration with is just a really strong, like, helpful thing. But as far as a challenge goes, I think, goodness, I feel like every season presents its own challenges. Honestly, we'd never done a season 2 of something, and that was really interesting because you don't really know how much you know, how much to bring along from season one. You want it to still be like the same world and the same kind of vibe, but you also want to go different places. And so finding that balance is tricky. Honestly, we just had no experience with that.
Yeah, it can also be because, like you said, both of us wear so many hats. We kind of had to develop a system of like, okay, we're in writer mode, and then we have to put that hat aside. It's like, okay, when we're done with a certain thing, we're done with writer mode, and then we have to just focus on editing. We can't go back and go like, well, maybe we can rewrite, because then we're just gonna keep going in circles.
Yep.
So we kind of developed. We had to figure this out, but we had to kind of develop of like, okay, this like during this week, I'm going to be putting on that editor hat, and I'm just going to be working on putting these scenes together. And then basically after that, we'd kind of like switch and then go, okay, now sound design basically. And then you kind of go more into these music choices and footsteps, door, you know, all of the sound effects that are a little bit more immersive and artsy and stuff. We kind of had to develop the show in layers, and that could be challenging to kind of recognize what hat you're wearing, what layer you're working on, and not kind of going back and forth and back and forth.
Right. I guess other challenges. I feel like we have to mention COVID like a little bit. I don't want to talk about COVID too much because, you know, everyone's talked about COVID, but that was certainly a challenge. I mean, knowing that actors couldn't share the same chemistry, that was, you know, a lot of Josie work here to make performances. Some of our actors never met each other because they couldn't.
They would share a scene together, but they never actually met each other.
Right, because we had to record them individually, and so Josie had to do a lot of remixing to make sure that chemistry really works, and it sounds like they're in the same room. I think in the beginning of one of our first scenes in season 2, which is coming out just tomorrow, there's 3 characters who are all interacting, and I don't think any of them met.
No,
none of them met, but they sound like they're all like 3 friends talking.
And well, it was sort of fun because like as we're doing this, as we're working with one actor, one of us would very often like kind of play the other actors, and so we would kind of copy that actor's style a little bit for a different actor. So it'd be like, you know, like, oh, we just recorded with this person, so I'm gonna say it in a way that they said it, and then they can kind of play off of that.
Same energy.
The next person can play off of that, and the next actor can play off of that.
Right. Yeah, like a weird game of telephone almost.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then like many hours once again in the editing room to just sort of finesse it and make sure that it works. Oh my goodness, one of the things that's a big challenge to talk about, and that's when we find out something that doesn't work, and there's a sequence, it could even be like a whole episode that doesn't work. We do have to do a very sizable sort of re-breaking of the episode. And famously in season 1, we did have to do this for, I think it was episode 8. Yeah. It just wasn't working, and so we had to completely rewrite the episode.
The entire episode after we recorded it and everything. We just went, it's not working.
Right. So we had about 5 days to do the rewriting, the re-recording, the recasting, the everything, you know, and to sort of piece it all together. And that we didn't sleep much that week. That was
and the episode turned out great.
Yeah, it turned out okay.
And COVID has just been insane. And I know like there's a lot of people that are still not filming, and there's like working from home, you know,
absolutely.
Us are still working from home, but it's really amazing what you guys put together. Did you ever kind of imagine that it would happen? Like, was it something that you had planned to do even if, you know, COVID hadn't come along?
Oh, great question. Well, season 1 was well before COVID, because that was about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago.
It was actually right before COVID. In fact, I do remember this. The last episode aired, and then the following week is when things all started going into lockdown, and it was like, oh. So actually, we that was when we kind of sat down after season 1 finished, and it was like just getting into COVID, and we thought, you know what? Like, we love this show. We've had such a wonderful job making it. What if we made a season 2? And we kind of like sat down this was before COVID, like everything was closed. So we were at a cafe, and we sat down in this cafe and we went, okay, well, is there a season for season 2? Can we take the characters somewhere good, somewhere satisfying? And in that coffee date, we outlined all of season 2. So that kind of became our COVID project.
Yeah,
our quarantine project
season
was
2 was COVID
writing
project,
season 2.
Yeah.
And then we sort of waited until it was safe enough. We got to a point before we could meet with actors and record with actors. We kind of waited a little bit for that, but yeah, we wrote the whole season in quarantine, basically.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and then by then I think because we'd done one season, we were like, let's tell the story. We have to tell it. There's has to. Let's see if we can. We got to bring the story to life. We got to bring season 2.
And I would say it was sort of we got messages from fans and stuff saying like, this is such a great show. This has been such a great show to binge during my quarantine. So that was part of it too, is like just the experience of being able to be someone's favorite show while they're in quarantine was so inspiring for us. So we just kind of was like, let's do more.
Let's do it. Let's go for more. Yeah.
What do you both want to say to everyone that's going to be, listening to, watching Call of the Void? What do you want to say to them? What do you kind of want them to know from your perspectives?
Yeah. Well, I think gratitude is the first thing. They're amazing, and the audio drama community is really
warm.
Yeah, intensely, passionately kind, and it's just an incredible. Twitter is one of the best places to meet the audio drama community, and for anybody who's like aspiring to make a podcast or something like that, I highly recommend following some shows that are in your vibe and networking with the community out there, because they're just so kind. And we're just really grateful for the chance to share a story on this. We never imagined that we would tell a story that like has gone to 75 countries, right?
Yeah.
There's a guy who's in Australia. He was like streaming our show on a Twitch stream, and he was like reacting to it, and it was so cool to just see him, share it with his fans. And it like blew our mind that like a guy with an Australian accent is like saying our characters' names. We're like, oh my gosh, that's the story that we were talking about.
And I think sometimes when when you just as a listener listen to something like a show like this, you don't necessarily know that the people behind it are reading your messages, but we do.
Oh yeah, we read every single one.
We read like every single one.
Every message,
and I just want to say, like, it just makes our day, and we like share it with the cast all the time. Like if somebody says something about a specific character, we'll contact that actor and be like, look what this person said about you. So like, I guess I would just like to say, like, to anyone listening, like, we hear you. We love getting messages. Right. We love sharing like what people, we just love sharing the experience with you.
Yeah, right. And then I guess we're hoping for that. We're hoping for more spooks to send their way. We're hoping that we can creep them out a little bit more. Just give them a little bit of that like goosebumps up the spine kind of feeling that they got in season 1. So I hope that they're ready for a little suspense and a little bit of spook that's on the horizon.
Yeah, I got goosebumps just listening to the very little clip that's on the website.
Oh great! Yeah,
it was great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now, what advice would the two of you give to people that want to start a podcast or people that want to get kind of into this industry and they may be hesitant or not sure what to do? What would you guys say to them? Because both of you are doing just so much and writing, directing, and acting. And what would you guys say?
Yeah, I think the first thing is you can do it already. Like you got skills that you need. I mean, if you have that story in the back of your head that you think, I've never seen that before. That sounds weird. That sounds scary. That's, interesting to me. I think go for it. I think that there's a lot of ways nowadays that you can share that story. I think one of the best that we found with Anchor, which is the distributor that we use, they're amazing. They are a free hosting service that allows you to share your content. And it's just a great way to get your voice out there. So you can find your audience and you can really share it out there.
Yeah, and I would say it's never, don't ever be intimidated by like price ranges or anything like that. Like you can do a show on a zero budget.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can make it whatever your comfort level is with like money or like whatever you have to put into a show, whether that's $0 or $5,000 or $25,000, like you can make that show work for your own budget. And I would say the second piece of advice is get a team of people that you really trust and you really work well with. That can just be your siblings, your best friends, people that you worked with in school or just, I don't know, on certain projects, and develop a team of people that can do all of the skills that you need to make a show work.
Oh, good. Yeah, actually, that's great. That's great, Josie. I have a couple other ones I think I'd want to throw out there too. I think social media is incredible. It's a very powerful tool, and making a brand or making a look to your show is really important. Josie's incredible at graphic design, and I think that attributes a lot of the success of our show, because you see that graphic, you see, Etsy on the cover there, and you go, whoa, that looks weird. And you see some of the swamp graphics, and you go, okay, I'll click. I'm going to see what that trailer sounds like. And we hope then that we can just sort of pull you deeper and deeper into the void. I think that graphic design is a really important ingredient there. So yes, I think that graphic design, make sure you have that look, and then do spend the time on the social media, because the podcasting, as it's like by its very nature, is sort of like from the internet, and it's from scrappy minds of people putting things together online and just sending it out. And I think that's where your audience is, and it's good to just reach out and say, hey, we're here and we'd like to share this content, and then people will be listening.
And you guys also have on your, is it acornartsandentertainment.com?
Yes.
There's beautiful merch on there.
Yeah.
Designed the merchandise, Josie?
Yes. Yeah.
She did. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's fun because the merch is sort of it's like pieces of the world, right? So there's a voodoo shop in the story, and so you can actually buy like the t-shirt of the voodoo shop, There's a place called JM Labs, and so you can buy like the lab, like the coat from the lab, and so you can like sort of be in the world, like you went to Zola's or you went to JM Labs or something, which is kind of fun. I just think that's cool. I think that's even more exciting than just sort of like basic merch.
Like
and we've got basic logos on there too. But I've always loved, Stranger Things and things when you can like get, like the Ahoy hat, or you like, you like are part of that world. I just like it. Yeah.
I thought it was really unique, and I really like the shirts with like the eye test where you're looking at the eye test. I thought that was great.
A big piece in our story is that
people start to lose their senses,
including their vision, right? And so that was genius when Josie threw that down on Photoshop one day, and she's like, "We can make it into an eye chart," and I was like, "Yes!" So we have eye charts on cups, we have them on everything,
Not to go back to the beginning, but you did mention that you based kind of some of the characters on people that you met in New Orleans. Did you guys kind of have a process to talk to the actors about, how their story was going to play out? And did you have to do research for them, or did they do any research to play the characters?
Some did. So Dan Johnson, who plays two characters.
Incredible man.
He plays Officer Mason as well as Necromon. And he did a lot of work on accent work, actually. So since he was playing two different characters, and they obviously, we don't want people to get them confused at all. They're very different characters. He kind of developed like different voices for very different voices. Most people are like, oh, that's the same actor. And so he kind of did a little bit of research on accent work for like a New Orleans kind of accent, as well as the other character is just I guess it's not an accent, but just a very distinct voice, I would say he has.
Yeah, because Necromon, he's actually a big thing in Lovecraft, which your fans probably know because they're horror buffs, but cults are a huge thing in Lovecraft, right? And so the character that he plays is his take on what a cult leader could sound like, and it's very cool. It's very frightening, and it's also very like magnanimous, kind of like it's very
he draws you in with his voice,
very much pulls you in, which I think he's just a genius. Dan Johnson's like really cool. He's a very talented man. But yeah, so he did some research into that, and then we did an absurd amount of research into, because once again we wanted to be authentic to New Orleans, so we did a lot of research on even just like neighborhoods, so we knew the difference between like the Lower Ninth versus the French Quarter, or because there's so many different cultures. I mean, kind of like New York, there's like so many burbs, right? There's
Oh,
just
yeah.
lots of communities that exist in New Orleans at the same time. So we wanted to make sure we were doing that, and we kind of come at it at the tourist angle.
Yeah,
there's a lot of
tourism involved in the show, and so that's
yeah, we kind of like live in like the locals in that community who like have to deal with the public on a regular basis, and yeah, it's kind of fun to like feel that side of it.
And I guess another kind of random part of the show is when we were there in New Orleans, we realized it was really kind of a melting pot. It was like a lot of people that we met were not from New Orleans, so that was part of the show as well. A lot of our characters are from other places, and they've kind of all found their way to New Orleans,
Yeah.
and that's sort of, I guess, it's sort of a very subtle theme in our show. Is
Yeah,
like
right.
finding your way to New Orleans.
Yeah, which is really cool.
It was really great talking to the two of you, and tell everybody where they can listen to this and where they can, keep up with you. And season 2 comes out tomorrow. March
Wow,
9th.
absolutely, Janelle. Yeah. So, well, our sort of our hub is that website you mentioned just earlier, which is acornartsandentertainment.com/thevoid. And there's lots of different pages on there. You can see our cast, you can see our merch, you can see like even just some of like our press and cool things that have happened. So that's a good place to find us. Also our Instagram, and that's going to be at on Twitter, it's Call of the Void P. And then on Instagram, I believe it's at the Call of the Void. And that's the same on Facebook as well. Yeah. So the Call of the Void. Yeah. Oh, sorry, the Call of the Void podcast.
And then of course you can listen to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, any of those. Really, I think any of those places that do podcasts, just look up the Call of the Void.
The Call of the Void podcast. Yeah, that's what we'll be.
Any final words of wisdom or anything else you want to share?
I just want to say thanks, Janelle. Janelle, this has been fabulous. Thank you for all these wonderful questions. We are so geeked for season 2. We hope people are excited about it too. And and we just can't wait to bring back the Void.
Thank you so much, Josie. Thank you, Michael. And it was an honor to talk to both of you guys. And congratulations. This is amazing. I can't wait to listen to season 2.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you both so much. And take care and stay safe.
Yes, stay safe. Absolutely. Yep.
Stay safe.
Stay safe. Stay safe.